It was spring break, and I told the wife we were going on a trip. I tried to not make the whole trip about fishing, but she was a good sport. We fished quite a bit. The first night we had about 45 minutes to kill and found a little spot right off the road. I'm sure there were some fish sitting down there, but we were not able to capitalize, and we came up empty-handed that first night. While on our trip, we stayed at this sweet little cabin called Footbridge Farm. It was a really quiet area, way down some dirt roads. We were actually a little nervous if we were going to get a lot of rain. These roads were going to be kind of tricky to traverse. So you park at the cabin, and then you walk over the footbridge, hence the name. And the owners of the place, their actual house is right there. But then as you round the corner, you come into this cool little path that leads you right to the cabin. And you open the doors, and inside the cabin you have a little kitchen area. You had a fireplace. And then in the upstairs you had a bed and a little couch as well with a small television. It was off the beaten path, so it was a great little place to stay. The next morning I went out on a little adventure and I hiked up a creek, and unfortunately I did not find many fish. The water was very, very low, and so I decided to actually head back to the main river. I found some interesting poop along the way. Let me know in the comments if you know what kind of poop this is. But when I got to the main river, I threw some small streamers, and I was pleasantly surprised to hook up with a couple fish right in one of the first runs that I fished. The fish were super jumpy, which was awesome. And we got into a few brown trout. So brown trout are not native to the area. They are wild and reproducing naturally at this point. A lot of fun to chase with the fly rod. And just make sure that when you're handling fish, you're keeping them in the water as much as possible, and that'll ensure a good, healthy release. So stripping streamers, it's a good idea to kind of vary your retrieve a little bit. You'll notice that occasionally here, I will throw some fast short strips, but then also some pauses. And it just kind of depends how the fish are feeling as far as what type of retrieve they're going to eat a streamer. In this run, there were actually quite a few fish that would chase my fly all the way back to the shallow side of the river. And on that one, I was actually picking up to cast, and there was a fish on, so. You can see these fish are healthy. They've got a good selection of food here in this river. A common streamer fishing method is to cast slightly downstream at an angle and then retrieve your fly as it kind of swings through the current. Getting the appropriate depth is important, so you need to know what kind of fly you have as far as what the weight is on your fly to get to the right depth where the fish are at. This particular stretch was not super deep, which is part of the reason that I'm stripping fairly quickly. After fishing that stretch for a bit, I went and got the wife, and I told her that we were going to find all the fish, and of course we went back and didn't touch another fish, so that was disappointing. We spent a good chunk of our time walking around the shops in Decorah, which was a lot of fun. We ate out every single meal. I even got our fast food order right first try.
Thank you, Brian.
Thanks. We did spend quite a bit of time on the road. We always had the cabin at the Footbridge to get back home to, which was great. I did get one more afternoon of fishing in for a couple of hours before we went out to a movie. So again, I chose to fish streamers, mostly because I like fishing quickly and I can fish streamers fast. The substrate up here was fairly large gravel and cobble. Using barbless hooks makes things really easy to release. So it was in this stretch that I was trying to get my fly down a little bit deeper, and then I kind of was letting it swing across this super fast current, and I hooked a really nice fish. It's funny, when you watch things back on video, you see things that you do correctly and you do incorrectly. So when I hooked this really nice fish, I immediately tried to pull him to the bank, but I didn't have enough tension in my line and he was able to shake free. But that got me excited. I knew there were fish in here, so I kept swinging through this stretch. But after that, I didn't have another take on a very fast retrieve. So what I ended up doing was changing the direction of my presentation. So I was fishing downstream and across. I switched to casting upstream, letting my flies sink toward the bottom, and then slowly twitching them back along the bottom. And almost immediately I had success when I made that switch. The rainbow trout in this river system are not native and they are stocked. Generally, there are a few wild rainbows, but for the most part, these are stocked fish that do survive winters, but natural reproduction is pretty rare in northeast Iowa. So I just had one more good fishy spot to hit, but it was almost time to get to the movie. And I was, again, swinging my streamer across some pretty fast current, some shallower water dropping off into a nicer deep pool, and I hooked into a decent sized fish. So I waded across the stream, did my best to keep tension the entire time, and got him in the net. And this was a nice fish, a nice healthy brown. Kept him in the water for as much of the time as I could. Did take a couple camera shots along the way, and then tested out the GoPro with a little underwater action. Overall, we had a great trip, and I'm very thankful that I have a wife that's willing to do trips like this with me, and she lets me fish along the way, which I cannot complain about. So if you get a chance, get out and fish northeast Iowa, the Decorah area. There's some fantastic fishing up that way. Make sure to stop into Rod and Rivet, the fly shop in Decorah. Talk to Dre and let him know that Fly Fish Iowa sent you. Tight lines, hope to see you guys on the water.